Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick, and thanks for joining us on episode number 9. And for those of you who are just tuning in or new to our series, we are near the tail end of a mini-series on Tullamore Irish whiskey. Now, today we are going to be tasting Tullamore Phoenix, which is a little step up, you could say, from the normal standard bottling. The first thing that hits you right off the bat, it's bottled at 55% ABV. Now, that's quite the staggering change from the standard bottling. Just open that up there so you can get a look. And, you know, anytime you see my trusty whiskey water dropper and water, you always know it's going to be a little bit above average as far as proof goes. So we have that. Now, one thing you might see from other reviewers, I won't give any names, but they like to attribute the higher alcohol content to more flavor, and that's it. They don't really elaborate. They don't say more, much more than that. Yeah, we'll kind of just leave it there. But just know that there's a bunch of things that go into the different flavors of a whiskey, and it's really important to take your time, as we always say, and really just kind of discover the little nuances of each whiskey that you're tasting. Sure, a lot of, higher ABV whiskeys have the potential for more flavor there because it's, 55% ABV. That means the rest of it is water. So basically it's been diluted down before it even gets to the shelf where you buy it from. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but the one thing is that higher alcohol contents tend to give you more of a sting when you drink that. So you might think that's providing more flavor on top, but if you really want to get down to it, I would suggest getting some, you could have bottled water. I use a filter for my water. Just because I don't want to leave anything up to chance that, something might taint the taste that are going on there. But you can still kind of pick at what flavors are in higher ABV whiskeys, such as Tullamore Phoenix. If you just get some water in there, let it sit a little while, and then you'll really start to mellow out the harsh sting of the, basically just different nerve receptors going on, telling you that, whoa, that this is kind of a foreign substance, which is basically what's going on. Alcohol's not really a flavor, you don't really taste it, but it's those pain receptors going off in your mouth that tells you basically that there's the alcohol content there, because it's foreign to us, basically, meaning our body doesn't produce it. So, let's get into it. Let's load out here. And as you can see, they kind of stick consistency with the packaging, which is nice. Not that it's a good or bad thing, but it's just kind of interesting to see. Like with the Jameson, they have different bottles, that type of thing. They have some of the big cylindrical tins that you might see. You don't want to knock that out of whack there. For our score later on, we got everything set up. Now, I won't go and grab the bottle of the standard Tullamore, but you can see kind of the color as we pour it in here. Is pretty similar to the other line. You can tell there's a little bit darker gold. I would say if we're going to call gold the standard color descriptor for Tullamore, we have a, probably a +2 on the gold scale there. So there's that for you. We have, of course, the nice cork there, which is nice. And if you go to the Tullamore website, you can read a little bit more on why it's called the Phoenix. It's kind of an ode, a little celebration in honor of the city of Tullamore, where William Grant & Sons is actually building a distilling distillery, and I believe they're almost at completion now, so we'll start seeing some Tullamore that's actually made at that distillery instead of sourcing from the New Middleton distillery down in County Cork. So that's always exciting. So at first, I'm just going to take a taste of it straight at 55% ABV. I don't suggest you, I mean, it's really a preference. If you can get past that sting, we talk about us, the whiskey drinkers and the reviewers and that sort of thing, as the wall. Call it the wall because it's kind of the burn of the alcohol for people who aren't experienced with tasting whiskey get sometimes. And actually most of the time, you get that harsh thing. You can't really pick out the flavors, which is sort of kind of it's a deterrent for beginners starting in whiskeys who don't really know where to go at first, because all you taste is the alcohol. All it does is burn. You can't taste any woods or fruits or citrus, or kind of like the nuances like we talked about plum that we saw in the Tullamore 12-year reserve. Those little things you're not going to get if you're just starting out and you go straight to a whiskey like this. It's 55% ABV. 110 proof is a lot to take in. I would say, what it's bottled at, normally for standard bottlings, 80 proof, 40% ABV. That, you could even go a little bit lower than that, is probably the standard for really picking out those aromas and flavors without being kind of knocked back with the alcohol. So the wall is basically something you just have to work at. You really have to be diligent about your whiskey tasting in the beginning. Start small, start with your basic standard bottlings. Don't try to go to anything crazy. I mean, if you're tasting scotch, you want to taste something right away that's, this heavy, peaty flavor, because you're not really going to get the proper introduction into the whiskey. So, start small, build your way up, and you're going to get past this wall, as we call it, and really get into those flavors. So, let's go in for the nose. Again, 55% ABV, no water added yet. So first, what we get here. Now, Tullamore, as we've talked about in the past, is a blended Irish whiskey. At least this one is. There's a 10-year malt, which of course is just malted barley. But this is a mixture of grain, pot still, and malt. But what I get here initially in the nose is the heavy pot still. It's got this sort of spicy, fruity floral note, and the floral notes is probably come from the triple distillation, which is common with Irish whiskies. But a little bit of wood smoke in there. There's sort of a hint of vanilla. The maturation on the Tullamore Phoenix is the American bourbon and sherry casks. So we get that dual maturation there. So let's go in for a taste. Now initially, there is a big kick. I'm not going to pretend like it's not there, because normally I wouldn't drink it just at 55% ABV. But what you do, more experienced people might pick up on this balance. This really nice balance, kind of 50-50 straight down the line of the American bourbon barrel influence, which is the woods, the vanillas. There's a little bit of caramel in there, a dash of cinnamon, sort of a toffee, candy note, the tannins in the wood influences there. So that's the one half, and then on the other half you have the sherry cask influence, which these nice, light, fruity flavors. They seem to kind of bounce around, almost like those, like pop rocks almost. That kind of just like fizz up in your mouth, kind of in various spots, little bursts of flavor, which is really neat. So we'll get in for one more taste before we add some water. Some nice honey. lemon zest in there. Again, the citrus fruit is in there. The wood comes in on the end, and what I must say with this far surpasses all the other Tullamores that we've tasted in the finish. The finish is nice and long. It's still there kicking around right now, which is nice because sometimes with the triple distilled whiskey you get a shorter finish than you would with, say, a Scotch or bourbon traditionally. Now that's not always the case. Of course, there's always exceptions, and you could find one right off the top of your head that might be an exception. But generally, the triple distillation, it kind of gets it to this really clean, strained out, alcohol. So you're only getting kind of the perfect alcohols of the bunch, if you will, out of the stills. So we're going to go into the trusty water dropper here. Now, I wouldn't be too kind of careful with this. I'm going to add a bunch, 4 or 5. We'll just finish off there because that's probably good for me. You can kind of gauge yourself. If you put a little, start with 3 drops or so. Let it sit a while. Go watch something on Netflix, something like that. Go write a poem. Go write something. Go do something. And then, I don't know, just kind of spouting off the top of my head here. But then come back to it, and you're going to find that it's really mellowed out, but it hasn't lost flavor, as you might have with some other things, some other whiskeys of a lower ABV. Because this will start to, mix in with oxygen in the air and really kind of hone in on the core elements of this whiskey. And it's really hard for me to tell you right away the differences that I'm going to get when I taste this in a minute or two, because really it requires a lot longer to really get in there, slow things down. Some other reviewers out there, that really, and I love, we're all reviewing whiskeys, but we're not competing against each other, really. We're all just trying to give our point of view. I'm not sitting here, again, like I said with these other ones who tasted, they have the notes inside here. I'm not going in here and reading you off this, everything that's in here. Spicy creamy pot still, on the taste, leafy characteristics on the nose. I'm not reading you that because it's not that it's not in there and it's not what I taste, but what I'm trying to give you is just my experience, and that's what it's all about. Just kind of weaving together these unique experiences and delivering that to you in hopes that when you, if you aren't already, having a glass when you're watching these reviews, but if you're looking to go out and buy something, that you're going to sit down, with a glass, whatever it may be, and, really enjoy it. Learn to enjoy the aromas, and just the pleasure of, sipping nice whiskey and just kind of talking about it with friends, or even if you're alone by yourself, we've said that before, to really just pick at the flavors, the aromas, and compare that with things you've had before. It's really kind of just the fun in it. But getting back to what I said, we don't, as reviewers, compete against each other. We've all got our own opinions and that sort of thing. But the number one thing that we can all agree on for sure is slowing things down. Things get crazy, life is crazy, you're bouncing back and forth from work to school, you got the kids, dogs running all over the place and whatnot. So it's really important, I think, even aside from whiskey, just in your life in general, to find some time. It doesn't matter how long it is, of course, more time would be better. But just to slow things down, kind of turn off all your, electronic devices, and, you don't have to check the email every, 20 minutes to see if something's going on, or your text messages, and that kind of thing. But just kind of block out all the outside distractions and really have some time for yourself to reflect, just on things, just on life, and family, friends, memories. It's a lot of great things, and a lot of things I know I personally, sort of take for granted, that I really need to slow down, and think about and just ponder things, because it's a great activity, sipping good whiskey and just kind of reflecting on, life's moments and that sort of thing. But we won't get all into that too much, because again, this is about the whiskey, this review. So let's see if anything's changed in this short period of time, and adding some water. So what I'm getting now is really zeroing in on the bourbon barrels. The vanilla is definitely there. There's a lot of wood in there. Slight char is in the air. The wood smoke, I get a great smell of wood smoke being in the outdoors. A nice open fire, in the middle of summer. This is a great whiskey to kind of warm you up. It's great in the dead of winter. Freezing outside, you're all bundled up. This is a great whiskey to warm me up, good and well. Now there is still the notes of the honey and the fruits, and unexpectedly, it still is the heavier American oak, ex-bourbon barrel influences that I get the most out of this. So let's try the taste and see if that concurs with the nose. Now still I can tell this needs a little more time and a little more water. But I'm definitely getting that, high pot still content that's in this whiskey. It's nice, spicy, but it's sort of a fruitier spice. It really kind of like fizzes in your mouth, almost like we said, the rock candy and that sort of thing. But there's a nice balance still of the sherry cask and the bourbon barrels, the influence going on in there, the woods, vanilla, all that sort of thing against these light, fruity, citrus notes that we're also getting. So it's a good balance between, you get a little bit of both. I would say the nose, like I said, has a heavier American bourbon influence, but the taste probably has a little bit more of the sherry in it. So it's just something you kind of nose around and just experience for yourself, see what's in there, and what you come up with. Yeah, at the end there's a nice like toffee candy note that kind of just sticks on the tip of the tongue, and it's a little sweet and a little tartness on there, but it's a nice balance. Full bodied, I would say. It's heavier, especially for an Irish whiskey. It's definitely heavy. It's got a lot in there. Certainly the higher ABV attributes to that, but like I said, slow it down, see what you can get. It is a wonderful whiskey, I have to tell you. It's my favorite out of the Tullamore brand. I first got this at Whiskey Fest last year. Is the first time I had a glass. It was the first thing I went to, and I was just like, oh, I saw the Tullamore, I think it was a banner that they had up there. I was like, I saw the Phoenix, I was like, let's give it a try. That was the first thing I had, and that was the last thing that I had walked out with, purchased a bottle of that. And I've had this for probably, 7 months now without having it until recently. So it is nice to get back in there. I knew this was going to be good quality, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I believe there's 2 editions out of this. there's a Tullamore Dew. You can see this says limited edition. I believe there is another that is special edition or small batch or something like that. A different run. I'll also make a note. I kind of overlooked this at first, but it's a non-chill filtered blended Irish whiskey. So the non-chill filtering is always great. And I don't know if you can see it on here, but if I were to add a little more water, you'd start seeing this little cloudiness to it. That's because it hasn't been chill filtered, which kind of dumbs down all the particles in there and kind of makes them cling together. It's easier to filter out things. But, you know, as we said before, personal preference, but I think the non-chill filter is great. So, with that, I believe it's time for a score. And Straight Talk Whiskey score for the Tullamore Dew Phoenix is 94. And we are almost at the end of our Tullamore Dew mini-series. And because this upcoming week, Tuesday, is St. Patrick's Day, we are going to be doing our last mini-series review of Tullamore on Tuesday. So look for that, probably Tuesday night. It should be coming to you. I hope you all have a great one. Please drink responsibly. There's going to be a lot of people out there acting foolish, probably vandalizing things, just making a complete fool of themselves. I don't expect you to be one of those people. You know, drink in moderation, have fun, enjoy it, slow it down, take your time. The best memories are the ones that we can remember, not the ones that your friend says the next day. Do you remember what you did last night? I can't believe you just did that. And, you know, walking out of a police station, that's never really a good thing to, you know, recount the past night's memories. I wouldn't know. I haven't been there, thankfully. But, you know, don't get yourself in that position. Be smart. Look out for one another. Take care of each other. So, we'll be seeing you on Tuesday, and then next week we will be getting on with our regular series of altering between American whiskeys and bourbon, Irish whiskeys, Scotch, and world whiskeys, which will encompass, you know, Canadian whiskey and multiple other locations that are producing whiskey. But at this point in time, we are up for another Scotch review, so look for that next weekend. For Straight Talk Whiskey, I'm Nick. Have a good one.